Thursday night football is in the books. Our two favorite teams were playing each other. Miami went into Jacksonville, and Jacksonville did not show up.
Yeah, that was utterly embarrassing.
That was pretty rough. I didn't even catch the whole game, but I got there. It was I want to say 21-7, and the first thing I saw was Minshew getting sacked and fumbling. Miami scored right after. I know you went into detail about it on your own podcast. Did you want to recap here on this one? Or
yeah, I mean, for anybody who wants to just recap, you can go on my YouTube channel, Jaguar King Podcast, and you could find the recap there. But I'll talk about it a little bit. I just think that Todd Wash, the defensive coordinator, needs to get canned, like, immediately. I don't even know where to start. They came out really sluggish. Like, they fucking carbo loaded before the game, and it was just awful. To start the game, like, a lot of people are talking about, because Jacksonville's strength right now is their offense, and they're like they keep starting slow. They keep starting every single game down 14-0, and everyone's saying, "Oh, Doug Marrone should kick the ball or receive the ball, not kick the ball," because he keeps deferring to start with the defense to get that. I agree with it, just because you could do that double dip, right? You could score at the 2-minute warning and then you get the ball back. So I agree with that philosophy. But everyone's saying they should receive it so they should start up 7-0 versus down 7-0. But like I said, like in my podcast, I was talking about it doesn't matter. Like, the defense is atrocious. The defense is absolutely brutal. I get it. They run their scheme, and it's usually cover 3 or cover 4. And with a mix of blitzes, sometimes cover 2, but rarely cover 2. It's usually cover 3 or cover 4. That's, like, who they have. That's the principles. But at some point, you have to realize it's not fucking working. Like, in 2017, they had a pass rush. So when that pass rush gets there, they have the deep stuff taken because, that's how their defense is set up. And they have to dump it off, and they come and rally down, and they make the tackle to that running back or the tight end, whoever dumps it off. And now you don't have a pass rush. So teams can literally, like, is what they've been doing, like that tight touchdown to Mike Gesicki. They just ran a cover 3 beater. Ryan Fitzpatrick stared it down. He had all day to throw, and he had no worries about making that throw. C.J. Henderson didn't get his head turned around fast enough. He's a rookie. If he gets his head turned around, maybe he makes that play. But that's a good play by C.J. Henderson. That's not a good defensive play call, because they're constantly being put in that same position. They just run cover 3 beaters, and if for whatever reason, if everything is taken away on the deep side, they throw it to the running back, who gets 7 or 8 yards without an issue because there's no one there to even tackle him. So the defensive scheme, philosophy, it just has to change. Whether it's with the same coordinator or not, whether Todd Wash keeps his job or not, it seems like he's not going to lose his job if he didn't lose it already. It's just not working. Why not just blitz? Just fucking do the Madden Engage 8. Because they're getting 15, 17, 18-yard chunks at will. So if they're doing that at will and you're playing in your base defense, who the hell gives a shit? What's the difference? They're going to pick up 18 yards, 20 yards regardless. So why not blitz to try to force something, get in someone's face?
Yeah, I definitely agree. What I saw was Jacksonville always ran a 4-man rush and couldn't do anything. And I'm like, why are they not sending an extra person? Especially, like you said, they're dropping back in coverage, and Miami's still completing it. If you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, then your coverage doesn't matter. Eventually, the quarterback's going to find somebody open, and that's pretty much what Ryan Fitzpatrick did. Or if he didn't find anybody open, he just ran. This guy's 38 years old, running like he just came out of college against this Jacksonville defense. So porous. I mean,
yeah, and that's another thing too. It's rough, like you have to okay, he's been in the league forever. You have to have an understanding of who Ryan Fitzpatrick is coming to the game. And they played it like they had no idea who he was. Like, he's a gunslinger. He's going to go out there. He's going to make throws that most quarterbacks are not going to make. He's going to test your defense that way because he has nothing to lose. Dude is 37 years old, got his chest hair all hanging out. He doesn't give a shit. He knows he's the starter until Tua. He's like, dude, I'm going to play every game. Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, what does it really matter for him? If you watch some of their rushes, they would come in and then they would lose contain and come and try to blitz up the middle, and he would just run right outside like Like it was, I don't know, like it was nothing. And it's like at some point, it's like, okay, that's consistently happening during the game. So it's one or two things. It's happening, and coach, Todd Wash is not saying, hey, don't fucking do this, and they're not listening, or it's happening and Todd Wash doesn't even know does not even happen. Like, I don't, if he's not making adjustments. But it's like it's the same stuff over and over again. Like you can literally every single time you watch a Jaguars game, you can literally see what the offense is gonna do, and it just happens, and they just move on. They just walk up and down the field. The first two games, the offense clicked, and they were able to put up 30 points and be competitive with two AFC contenders. But when your offense doesn't click, when you're losing a star receiver, you're gonna need your defense to make plays. But at no point, even if Minshew comes back and ties that game up, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to walk down the fucking field again.
I mean, it almost seems like the game seems like a microcosm of Jacksonville over the last few years, where something worked at the beginning, but if you fail to make an adjustment, it's not going to work later on. And that's kind of what happened when they had a great defensive line back in 2017. Is it worked because that defensive line was able to generate pressure without having to bring in extra rushers. That way, the people dropping into coverage had an easier job. But things have changed. You don't have the defense alignment that you had back then. So you can't just run that same defense that you did back then.
Yeah, and if you do want to run the same defense, then you have to go get the players available to do that. For instance, Seattle, they're having safety trouble. They traded for a perfect safety to fit their scheme, to play that Cam Chancellor role. On the opposite spectrum, on the offensive side, it seems like what Jay Gruden likes to do is find the strength or the weakness of the defense and attack that, defense. Versus what Todd Wash likes to do is like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the scheme we're going to play. And it doesn't seem like they really scheme up to stop the opposing offenses, because the philosophy behind that Seattle defense is like, you know what we're going to do. This is what we play. Come and beat us. It works when you have the personnel to do that. If you don't have the personnel to do that, they're going to kick the shit out of you. Jacksonville has some pieces. Like, okay, they have Oren Sherbert and Miles Jack at the linebacker spot. You could say they're at least starting caliber. On the defensive end, you could say Josh Allen is good. They got Chase On, who they drafted as a first-rounder. On the outside, they have C.J. Henderson, who could potentially be good. But outside of that, everyone's a quality starter, but they're not really good. I don't know. And it's just frustrating to watch. You're just like every single third, like first and second down, they'll stop the run. It'll be 3rd and 10, and I'm just like, okay, like it doesn't even matter because they're gonna get the third down. Like they're gonna get, if they don't get it, they're gonna get 9 yards and then just go for it on 4th down and just get it on 4th and 1. And it's just incredibly frustrating. It's like at some point you have to just look at your defense. You have to look at what you're doing. Like you're giving up a shit ton of points, and it's not like for instance, if these offenses didn't let up, they would be blown out. They would be absolutely blown out. But if you saw that game yesterday, Miami's up 21-7 in the first half, and like the first 10 minutes, it almost felt like, So it's like, okay, like all Miami has to do now is like, let's control the clock, let's do nothing stupid until, for instance, if we need to step up and score points or something. It's just unreal that no sort of adjustments is being made. And I honestly think that if the defenses didn't let up in the second half, like if that Miami game, if Fitzpatrick wasn't like that one sack that he
gave to Allen,
Josh Allen got. Yeah. Like he clearly could have done more. He clearly could have tried to, I don't know, throw the ball away to not lose yards. But he was like, let me just hold on to the ball so we get the fuck out of here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Miami kind of just parked it in the second half. I don't know the stats offhand, but yeah, you can definitely see like Fitzpatrick was having like a monster game in the first half and then just let off in the second half and let their non-existing run just kind of run out the clock.
Yeah, and a lot of people are blaming Minshew and the offense, and they do have their fair share of blame. They did not play good at all, and they missed DJ Shark. What it looked like was, to me, Gardner Minshew was pressing. It looked like, I'm down 7-0 in the first 2 minutes of this goddamn game. Like, I have to go out and score, because if I don't score, I'm going to be down 14-0, and that's exactly what happened. So now I'm down 14-0. I got to try to make plays fast. What am I going to do? I'm going to hold on to the ball to try to throw it to these deep guys. So it looked like he was overlooking his
underneath
routes and his checkdowns that could keep the drives going to try to hit those big plays. And in all honesty, Brian Flores adjusted to that. Josh Allen killed them that week 2 game with all the same exact fucking play. He was just running deep crosses. They had no pressure, so Allen had all day to throw. Jacksonville tried that, seemingly it looked like, but it wasn't working. The line couldn't hold, or the receivers couldn't get separation. So, and he adjusted to that. He played a lot less man. He played more zone. He played more off coverage and gave them the checkdowns. So that's also a coaching thing too. If your game plan going in was not working, then you have to adjust. Like, okay, they clearly adjusted to what we're trying to do. How else can we beat them? Maybe they tried and nothing else was clicking, but it just looked like Minshew was just trying his hardest to score a ton of points fast.
Right.
Versus like, let me play the game, as it goes.
Yeah, I think he was almost trying to make things happen. Like you said, he was pressing. He was trying to make things happen so that he can keep up with whatever the defense was allowing Miami to do. And that causes mistakes. He almost had it picked off. The one time he threw it into like 5-man coverage on Chanot on a third down, I think it was. He threw it into double coverage to Chanot earlier in the game, and somehow he caught that one. But yeah, you can tell when a quarterback's almost trying to make things happen rather than, I don't even want to say take what's open underneath, because when you're down 14, you can't just be like, oh, let me, take whatever. You're 2 scores behind. It's you can't make any mistakes at that point. You have to play perfect.
Yeah, and I said in my podcast, it's like the defense wants them to come out like Jesus and just fucking sling it, and
he's got the hair for it.
Yeah, he's got the look, but it's just I don't know. I just think that if they're going to be any competitive at all, their offense has to be 110% all the time, and their defense has if they play the way they do, otherwise they have to get help or change something. And I'm genuinely I did not want Todd Wash to come back as a defensive coordinator, because if in 2017, they had that good defense. In 2018, their defense dropped off with the same players. They didn't really lose anybody. And then 2019, they lost obviously Ramsey and Barry Church and Deshaun Gibson, a few of those players. And then it dropped off again. So it's showing that I don't think it's necessarily the players. Yeah, he's not given the best hand at this point. He's got 8 rookies on that defense. But even the veterans who've been playing in the system for a long time are just doing the same shit. So it's either they're getting out-coached schematically, and these teams are just finding all the tendencies and flaws they do, and they're just not getting fixed. There's just, at the end of the day, something's wrong, and it doesn't look like that they're making much adjustments to really fix what's wrong.
Yeah, I think so too. Plus, you said they're so predictable. They're down in goal after the fumble by Minshew. Miami was spread out 5 wide, and Fitz was in the shotgun, and everybody knew he was going to run the draw. The announcers were like, watch out for the draw here, and that's what he did, was run the draw. And I think one guy, I think it was Jack, that actually even went towards the middle. Everybody just kind of opened up for him. It's just not being prepared. It's not adjusting.
Yeah, I literally when that plays they're 3rd and 1, literally at the 1-yard line. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna have Fitzpatrick try to gun it into this tight window as a 5 receiver set. So they're gonna run it with Fitzpatrick, and I get it. It's a hard play to stop. You need a defensive line to clog up something because everything's so spread out. But there has to be some sort of awareness of this is what's coming, and it seems like I don't know. Like I said, if that maybe that is coached. And we don't see that because the players aren't instinctive enough to have that click in their head during the game. But it's just over and over again, the same stuff. They play 7-8 yards off the ball on a 3rd and 3. And the guy throws it to the out route. He gets 8 yards. You're not stopping him anyway. And on a 3rd and 3, just play some press. If you get beat deep, fuck it. They're going to score. It's why stop the inevitable at this point? And I was saying, I joked in my podcast where I was like, when Minshew fumbled in his own end zone, I was almost happy because I was like, dude, if they punt it off and Miami has to go from the 20 down to score, they're chewing off 6 minutes off the clock versus chewing off 1 minute. Now at least the offense has a chance to score because they're going to walk down there and score anyway. But I don't know. It was just as a Jacksonville fan, it was just incredibly annoying. Both sides of the ball played bad. I'm not to say that Minshew was perfect. And it was all the defense's fault because even when the defense gave him some chances, They couldn't capitalize. Bad calls on the ref standpoint, but you can't always just blame the refs.
Yeah, I'm still pretty sure the refs don't know what a pass interference is.
They need to get rid of that fucking rule. They need to get rid of all pass interference. Let the fucking players like twist each other necks because it's fucking absurd. I talked about it on my podcast. I was like, that Mike Pereira guy came on, who every time they bring that fucking one of those bozos on there, they're always on the ref side. No matter the fuck what, the ref can trip the player, and they'll be like, yeah, that was definitely fucking holding on that clown or something. And then they'll bring over that Mike Pereira guy, and he'll be like, I didn't see anything wrong here. The ref's on it. You know what I mean? And he literally was talking about how holding is down and all these penalties are down because like they were told at the beginning of the season, only call what's
necessary.
What's necessary, what you see, what's like 100% deemed to be a flag. And that's why holding is down. That's why this is down. That's why that is down. This game was officiated by a bunch of clowns, dude. That they called a horse collar on Orange Sherbert. He was literally just like trying to tackle him from the back. I didn't see that at all. That Caleb on Chase on pass interference. Sure, you might chalk it up to Matt Breida made a very veteran move by hugging his arm and making it look like a pass interference. It clearly wasn't though. And then on the next possession, Eric Rowe gets called for a pass interference on Tyler Eifert. That ball was uncatchable, and he really didn't do anything to Tyler Eifert. He was just playing good coverage. So it was like a makeup call. And then Dede Westbrook gets called on the defensive pass interference on Dede Westbrook, which clearly wasn't a pass interference, which led to that Jacksonville touchdown. It didn't matter at that point. It was a blowout anyway. And then that awful call on Cam Robinson ejected him because he said, dude, stop groping me, get off me. And it's like, you're in a pile, you see a bunch of arms, you don't know what the fuck it is. How the hell do you know it's a ref?
Yeah, he had like two refs on him. He had like one ref by his head, another one like trying to give him CPR. So he just like pushed them away.
And then after that, like probably because it was like, oh, that was a shit call. The Dolphins guy is blocking Myles Jack. He just like slams it to the ground, and they're like unnecessary roughness. It didn't matter at that point anyway, but it's like the refs were absolutely brutal. And how does that clown come up? And it was just like, yeah, we're calling anything that we see 110%, and then they call nothing but tic-tac fouls that whole game. It was just on both sides. It was brutal, and it just Jacksonville got the worst end of it because their two penalties were all drive killer or extended
Miami drives,
which led to points, but. It was just I don't know that whole they needed just like that pass interference, and then Conley got an offensive pass interference because during the press coverage he pushed that guy down.
Oh yeah, that was bad. That wasn't an offensive pass interference. That's what you do as a receiver when you run up there. You just swim move.
And the guy like how's it his fault? That guy fell over, and that was just so fucking I don't know. I thought that was so dumb, and like and I don't know. It was just that whole.
Yeah, I mean. That's like I came into it and like I said, I didn't even see the whole game, but I saw like 3 pass interference penalties where both Aikman and Buck were like that. I don't know. That's not pass interference.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That's questionable. Like the Dede Westbrook one, he pulled the receiver or the defensive back towards him, and they called pass interference on a DB. Yeah, like there was hand fighting, but I think it was mainly initiated by Westbrook. And like you said, the Conley one, like. It's just a regular receiver move. Every receiver does that. It's not his fault that, I think it was Noah Igbenigbeni or whatever his name is. Yeah. Is fucking weak and just gets tossed like nothing.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that whole game was it just sucked. Like as a Jags fan, especially because I was like, okay, it's going to be close. And I was like, it's either close or a Dolphins blowout. And it just happened to be a Dolphins blowout. I just think that something has to change. And it sucks because it's like, I don't know. It's like you want the team to succeed, but then you don't also want that coaching staff to stay if they're like shitting the bed this bad. Like mainly Todd Wash. Like I think Jay Gruden coming in I think first 2 games was really good. This last game was kind of questionable, but
yeah, that's the worst thing is when like they're just good enough to not get canned. So you got to deal with them again next year, and then like they do good enough to stay there. I mean that's kind of what happened with Jack Del Rio too. Like. He wasn't anything spectacular. He was there forever just because, he didn't suck enough to get fired. For Miami, though, as a Dolphins fan, like I feel like Ryan Fitzpatrick has like 1 or 2 good games in him, like every year. And unfortunately, this had to be the one. I wish it would have happened. I mean, he had a good game against Buffalo, too, but, I feel like he's kind of used up his good games. So I hope he's at least got like another one left in the tank, because I don't want to see Tua come in too early. I want to see, Miami keeping him on the sidelines as long as they can, hopefully for the whole year. That would be great. And like Miami has a tendency of getting like big wins, kind of like they beat the Patriots, last couple of years, and they almost just kind of ride that high, not caring what happens afterwards. And it's really frustrating because you're like, hell yeah, they fucking won Thursday night. But I know like the next two games are just going to blow it. And it's kind of what's expected as a fan. Like I said, though, I just hope Tua doesn't come in too soon.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is in that rebuild, so I think for them, really, it's just let's see where we don't have to build for next year, what we have, what pieces we have. Personally, I see Tua coming in sometime, but maybe after a bye week or something like that, because I see Fitzpatrick fizzling out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, he does it all the time.
So it depends on how patient the coaching staff is. Because I guess what would suck is, like, if he comes in and, like, he's not ready yet, his hip isn't there or whatever, and then he just, he kind of gets, like, a shock and loses some confidence, things like that. Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, Miami was definitely, like, I did not think, a lot of people had Jacksonville winning, like, outright. I thought it was going to be a lot closer, like, than what everybody thought. But it was a blowout.
Yeah, that sucked. And back to the refs, too, man. That fourth down when James Robinson caught kind of a dig route or whatever and tried to turn it upfield, it really looked like he got that. And the fact that they didn't move the ball at all, they're just
I thought that was complete.
Like, come on.
Like, I understand, like, there's not enough evidence to overturn it bullshit. But at least, like, let's put the ball where we think the spot is, because they spotted it like a yard short. And he was like right on the line. And then they didn't even like, this is where I think the ball is. Let's go and measure it to see if we get the first down. Because the game was still like a lot of time left for something to happen there. They were just totally like, yeah, that's fine. Earlier in the game, Fitzpatrick goes for a run on third down and he gets nowhere near. He's like 2 yards short. They spot the ball at the first down and give him the first down. And Doug Marrone had to use a challenge. Like, how do you see that? You had a clear space to see where he's at. And I get it, like those type of things where he's like diving or something, but his knee hit clearly like a yard before and they just gave him a good spot. I don't know. I just thought it was.
And how do you have like 15 cameras and somehow on this fourth down play, you only have one camera working? They only had one camera to show that James Robinson run. The TV camera.
I don't know. I mean, that whole game was just a fucking clusterfuck.
Thank you for listening in to this clip of the Moose Bros podcast. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment below, and subscribe to this channel to see more clips just like this one. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, you can find us at Spotify or Apple Podcasts under Moose Bros Sports.